And this ecosystem creates additional market advantage. First, it is not enough to enter two markets. In order to compete with Google, you've got to, in fact, effectively compete. You've got to enter couple of markets. So it's another market barrier. And in fact, digital ecosystems enhancing attractiveness for downstream customers and at the same time strengthen, enhancing, increasing the possibilities to gather data. Because when we've got different types of services, we can gather data from different sources. When, for instance, we are operating Android phone, Google is actually gathering data from Google Translate, from Google Maps, for instance, and so forth and so on. So it makes the product, the upstream product, even more attractive for existing for upstream customers. Another one is a very low marginal cost and extreme scale economies. So when you are an incumbent platform and you are already on the market, you do not have you have practically no costs of adding additional downstream customers and upstream customers. In fact, it is almost costless in the digital world, while initial investment is very costly. So if you enter the market as a first, you've got this first mover advantage. It is very hard for you are in a very privileged position, and it is very hard for a new entrant to enter into such market because first a very high fixed cost of entry and for the incumbent company it is almost no cost to adding other customers. Then there are certain issues related to big data, of course. When we've got uh, access to large sets of big data, we first have a stronger indirect network effect, but then we can have another advantage when it comes to so-called self-learning algorithms. Okay, so while I have to rush a little bit, so let me talk a little bit about our response. So one of the problems with these uh, platforms is the question of so-called killer acquisitions. So these are acquisitions of so-called nascent competitors, so firms that are in the inception phase, and usually the policy of incumbent digital platforms is what Facebook actually pursued: copy, acquire, or kill. So we are copying certain solutions or acquiring a new potential market entrant or killing this market entrant. And the problem is that when we are thinking about killer acquisitions, we've got a situation in which a very big platform is actually risking a very big loads of money to buy a startup, a small company, having at least some potential to be a competitive threat in the future. But from the point of view of competition, of traditional competition law, first of all, this was not a problem. Because at the time of a merger, of an acquisition, these startups were just in the inception phase without any revenues, any profits, and basically sometimes even before entry into any kind of a market. So the problem in the European law was that we had uh, thresholds for the notification obligation, because our merger notification thresholds are based on the question of uh, uh, the turnover of both parties. And you've got a startup. Startup has no turnover, or it's just a very small turnover. So basically, we were not able to cope with mergers, with such killer acquisitions, because these killer acquisitions were outside of the merger control system. So let me uh, let me refer to what we did in the European Union, but first referring to the concept and the system of notification of concentration. So in the European Union, we've got a division of competencies between national competition authorities and the European Commission. So concentrations with the so-called EU dimension. So I'm oversimplifying it. The biggest concentrations are actually notified to the European Commission, while at the same time, smaller mergers, oversimplifying it a little bit, so concentration with national dimension to national competition authorities. But there is one exemption to it. Under Article 22 of the European Union Merger Regulation, we've got a possibility to refer a merger which is even not covered by the national competition law to the European Commission by a national competition authority. So, pursuant to Article 22, one or more member states may request the Commission to examine any concentration that does not have a community dimension but affects trade between member states and threatens to significantly affect competition within the territory of the member state or states making the requests. So here, there is a potential to exploit this article to have control over killer acquisitions, and the European Commission did it. Made a revival of the so-called Dutch clause. Dutch clause is the Article 22. In the Commission guidance on the application of the referral mechanism. So the European Commission said that national competition authority can refer to the European Commission with any kind of a merger, even not covered by the thresholds of the European Commission or of our member states as such.